Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Ground and Pound cast. We are just coming off of a historic event in UFC 328. Whole lot of things happened that a lot of people weren't expecting. This card overall, I thought, was absolutely fantastic. We're going to be breaking down all of the fights, or at least all the good fights that we want to talk about. I am joined tonight with the soothsayer of the MMA world, Nostradamus, and it is I, your usual host, the world's okayest jiu-jitsu blue belt, Vince. So, we're going to turn it over to Roy real quick. What did you think about this card overall?
Overall, this card was full of unexpected results.
I think it was a pretty fun set of fights, to be honest, for the most part.
I agree. And there were two of them. They were competitive where I didn't expect them to be competitive. There was one where I predicted it right, and I vehemently disagree with how the judges saw it. But that's one of the good things about the sport is you can disagree, and at the end of the day, the judges say is the only one that matters.
Now, which is the one you disagree on?
Volkov.
Okay.
He did not win that fight.
Yeah, so I started off just like you, where I disagree with it as well. And I went back and looked at the stats, and the stats almost made me change my mind. I think that'll be a good thing to talk about. But first, we got to get through this main event first, man. This main event has the entire MMA world on fire right now. People are so split on it. But I definitely do want to talk about that Volkov fight because I'm with you on it was some weird scoring. Also, a lot of people are arguing some weird scoring with this main event. So, for those of you that missed it, and I'm sure if you're listening to the show, you did not miss it, Sean Strickland defeated Khamzat Chimaev by a very, very close split decision. This is one of the few situations where I think a split actually makes sense, and I'll explain why when we get to breaking these down round by round. So there are a lot of people out there that think that Chimaev should have actually won this. A lot of people agree that Strickland did win and should have won this. Some people are saying it was 4-1 Chimaev, which I think is a bit absurd. I can understand, though, why some people are arguing this one because it was admittedly very close. So, Roy, what did you think about this fight as far as like the scoring goes? Like, did you agree with it? Did you disagree with it? Was there any rounds that were like very close to call? What are your overall thoughts on just the scoring of it?
Round one, 100% Chimaev. He went out there. He did exactly what we expected him to do, took Sean to the ground, grappled with him, held him down. Round two, I don't know what the heck happened to Chimaev, but he didn't even go for a takedown. I've seen he attempted a takedown, but he didn't get a takedown in round two. That's unusual, and that round went to Strickland. Round three, inclined to give it to Chimaev. I think that's the round where he broke Strickland's nose. He inflicted more damage. Round four, I'm inclined to give it to Strickland, bringing us to the finale of the fight. Who did more damage in round five is really the determining factor of this, and I had to give that to Chimaev. But, again, the judges are the only ones whose opinions matter.
All right, so I actually disagree on 3 of these rounds. So I think pretty much everybody who's not being blatantly biased or blind or whatever, admit that the first 2 rounds, round 1 went to Chimaev, round 2 went to Strickland. I don't think that's being contested by anybody. I saw
some people talking about 10-8 on round 2. Come on.
No,
that was not a 10-8 round.
No, absolutely not. That was not even close. I don't think any of these rounds were a 10-8, but if you had to, if you just picked one round to be the most dominant round to score it as a 10-8, it would be round 1 with Chimaev. I don't think that was a 10-8, but I'm just saying that was closer to a 10-8 than all the other rounds because it was so one-sided. There was not really any damage or anything like that, but it was one-sided control. Again, I'm not saying it was a 10-8, but if you're going to give one a 10-8, it would make more sense to say round 1. Round 2 was definitely not a 10-8. So The way that the judges scored it, not counting, so the fifth round was the one that was actually split. All the judges agreed with rounds 1 through 4. It was 1 went to Chimaev, 2 went to Strickland, 3 went to Strickland, 4 went to Chimaev, and the fifth round is where they were split. Now, when I first watched this round, or first watched this fight, I picked 1 and 2, the way that we just discussed. I had number 4 for Chimaev. So 3, I remember thinking to myself, was really close, and then 5 felt really close. And then when I saw all 3 judges had picked Strickland for 3, and then 2 of the 3 went to Strickland for 5, I made myself rewatch this fight yesterday so I can better understand it. I would pause it and go back and like replay segments to like really try to break this down and score it the best I could. So again, I don't think anyone's minds are going to change on rounds 1 and 2. Nothing really to say there that you didn't already say, right? Round 3, I initially thought was very close, and I think the reason why is because you had a one-sided round for Chimaev, a one-sided round for Strickland. The third round was the first round that was at all competitive with each other. I think we could agree there, right? It's the only round where they both had levels of success. So I was thinking,
really the big reason why I give round 3 to Chimaev is he had the takedown and actually broke Strickland's nose that round.
Right. So when I first watched it, I thought that round could go either way because it felt pretty close. Upon rewatching it, I agree that with the 3 judges, all 3 gave it to Strickland. The reason why is there was not a takedown until the very end of the round, and it amounted to nothing. It was one of those where he kind of like half takes him down, where he's kind of in a tripod position and gets back up. So the takedown was kind of a wash. It didn't do anything. And yes, Chimaev did break Strickland's nose, but Strickland actually landed a whole lot more strikes than Chimaev did, and he did a lot of damage of his own. A matter of fact, most of the damage you see on Chimaev was from round 3. The only difference is the spot where he lands on Chimaev's head was more the forehead. So he didn't break his nose, but he lit up his forehead. There was like bruising all over his eyes and his forehead. If you look at the numbers, and I don't always agree with the numbers that they put out, I've seen a lot of times where I just think those are flat out wrong. But if you do look at those numbers and think they're even sort of true, that is the round that Strickland landed the most strikes out of all 5 rounds. It was by a pretty solid margin. He had outstruck Chimaev in that round. The only thing is Chimaev, yes, did break his nose in round 3. But again, that's kind of like when we talked about the Aspinall-Gane fight, and you thought it was a lot closer than some people think because just a little busted nose doesn't really mean that it was like way more damage. I feel the same way when it comes to this round. Yes.
Did you see Strickland after the fight? This wasn't just a little busted nose. He broke the crap out of it.
Yeah, and did you see Chimaev's eyes and forehead? It was purple. Straight up. So what I'm getting at is the damage. Yes, there was fairly equal damage in this round, but Strickland landed a lot more in this round. It was by a very large margin. So when I saw that and I replayed it, and like I said, I was rewinding and playing parts over and over again to really like see, okay, what's landing, what's not, to really kind of get a strong understanding of this round. And when I did that, I feel very strongly that Strickland should have won this round because there was a much bigger output from Strickland than there was Chimaev. Round 4, there was hardly any grappling. It was basically boxing, and Chimaev was beating him to the punch. So I have to give round 4 to Chimaev because and again, if you look at the numbers, and again, I don't always agree with the numbers, but if you think the numbers are even close to accurate, Chimaev outstruck Strickland in round 4. On top of that, in every exchange, just about every single exchange, when they're standing in boxing, Chimaev is pushing forward and Strickland's backing up. I don't think that should be the determining factor, but if you are landing more and the one pushing forward, I think it just adds a little more emphasis to you winning in the striking exchanges. So with all that said, I have to give Chimaev round 4. There's a lot of arguments over control time, and I think that's a topic that we could deep dive later on, but this is where it gets tricky. Round 5 is the one that makes sense that so many people are split on. So looking at the numbers and rewatching that round, that is the hardest round to judge. And this is where it gets tricky as an MMA judge because things do get really subjective. It's not like baseball and football and basketball. It's not these team sports where it's like who scores the most points. It's on the board. You make a touchdown, you get base, you land your 3-pointer, whatever. In combat sports, you have to look at things and it kind of gets subjective whenever you have certain people doing well in certain areas, but the other side's doing better in the other areas. So all that said, what I'm getting at is if you go off of strikes, who landed more strikes? Sean Strickland. That's according to the numbers. If you go off of who dished out more damage, about even. It's kind of hard to measure damage. These two guys by round 5 were both already pretty busted up, so they keep hitting each other. You're not really seeing any more visible damage, so the damage itself looks pretty even. Now, if you look at takedowns and control time, this is where it gets very interesting. I have the numbers up. You have a total of, allegedly, 6 takedowns by Chimaev for a grand total of 1 minute and 31 seconds of control time, which means he had Strickland down on average 15 seconds per quote-unquote takedown. And I say quote-unquote because do you consider it a takedown if like you kind of if you clinch the guy and get him down to where he's kind of like on one knee and one hand and holds himself for a few seconds and then bounces back up, would you call that a takedown?
No, they've got a term for that. Forget. Chael said it.
But that's basically what
return.
Oh, Matt return. Well, Matt return is a type of takedown, but even so, you could like keep him down. But that's all it was. It wasn't like round 1 where he got him down and was able to control him and like secure a dominant position. That's the main thing. As someone who practices jiu-jitsu, those would not have been called takedowns because you have to like getting them down to where their butt or back is on the mat doesn't count as a takedown if I can't pass your guard and get into a controlling position. So in this case, whenever he clinches him by the waist and gets him down to a hand and a knee and can't quite get into a dominant position, and then Strickland gets back up and then he kind of trips him back down again, for about a minute and a half, is 1 minute and 31 seconds was the total control time. They counted 6 supposed takedowns that led to zero strikes, literally 0 strikes, 0 submission attempts. So yeah, you get control time for a minute and a half, but is your control time of a minute and a half considered more dominant than the 3.5 minutes that Strickland had where he's outstriking you? Because that's actually what happened. Again, according to the numbers, Strickland outstruck him in round 5. So then the debate comes down to what's more important. Is this going to be like 5 years ago where takedowns are king? You could get outstruck, you could get whooped, you could get bloodied up, but if you land a few takedowns, you're considered the winner of that round? Or is it where we're just favoring strikers more and you could get taken down a whole bunch of times, but if you land more punches, you win the round? That's where it gets subjective. And of course, you have people online that are going to be biased. The ones who really want Strickland to win, the ones who really want Chimaev to win, and they're going to swear up and down that Strickland won that round, that Chimaev won that round. Instead of being super biased and going at it that way, I'm trying to look at it objective, and I'm acknowledging where they had success in that round. And then it comes down to, what do you really value more when it comes to who should win that round? A minute and a half of control time with no strikes and no submission attempts and a whole bunch of mat returns, or 3.5 minutes of outpointing a guy with jabs? Because that is really what round 5 was.
Well, it wasn't a one-sided jab fest, though.
No, it wasn't one-sided, but it was.
It was actually fairly competitive. How much was the differential in significant strikes on that round?
I actually have it saved. If you give me just a minute, I'll pull it up. Again, I don't always agree with the numbers.
Because if it's close and then you've got a minute and a half of control time, that...
So, 31 significant strikes to 22.
Okay.
So someone broke that down that it's like close to 40% difference. That number doesn't sound right to me, but that's what someone pointed out. It's the math. I could do the math real quick, but yeah. So actually, they asked. I don't know where they got 40% from, because you could almost round down, say like 2 out of 3. So that's like 30-something% better striking.
Yeah.
It's around 33% better striking. So let's be real here. Let's be honest. That is not a cut and dry round.
Nope.
And that is why I said that before they even announced who the winner was, regardless of who wins, because we already were pretty sure it's going to be a split. And when they started announcing referee so-and-so has it Chimaev, referee so-and-so has Strickland, before they even listed the third person, I said, whoever wins, I'm not going to call it a robbery. Because whenever you have rounds that close, and whenever you have somewhat subjective criteria, it does make things murky when it comes to scoring.
There was a time where to beat the champion, you had to actually beat the champion. There was a little deference given to the guy who had the belt. And I feel like I'm more that type of fan where if you're going to inherit the belt, you can't just do it by the skin of your teeth in a split decision.
Well, I got 2 responses to that. A, if that's the case, that means Sean Strickland never lost his title against DDP in the first place. Or at least not in that first fight, because DDP won by a very close split decision over Sean Strickland. Number 2, I've never bought into that whole notion of to beat the champ, you have to beat the champ. Like, you have to do way above and beyond it. It should be when 2 people, regardless of who's champion or not, step into the ring, they are held at an equal standard. And they're going to get scored at the same standard. That's the way it should be. I've always, because that's been a notion since boxing. That's before UFC was a thing. They've been saying that in boxing. To beat the champ, you have to beat the champ. You can't squeak by. No, it shouldn't be that way. Whenever they go to war, they're held to the same standard. There shouldn't be any preferences given to the champion. That's my opinion on that, and I will stick with that one. At the end of the day, I'm not mad at the decision. I would not have been mad had it gone to Chimaev. I think that I am very firm in agreeing with most people that have it 2-2 go into the 5th, and the 5th round being a swing round that gets really subjective. That's my overall take on the scoring.
Yeah, it was a close fight. It was, but it was not the best fight of the night.
Absolutely not. Before we get into the next fight, which is the best fight of the night, so there's a few things to talk about this one, about this this new title run that we have going for Sean Strickland. I got a couple of questions for you. So, first of all, what is next for Sean Strickland? Before you answer, I'm going to throw out the stuff that's being thrown out there on the internet. So, Chimaev, before he even made it to the locker room, whenever he left the ring, he immediately walked to Dana White and says, I don't want to fight at 185 ever again. I want to go up to 205 and be done with it. About a day later, or maybe not even a full day later, it's like he changed his mind, and he's saying, I want that rematch. Give me that rematch. I want a rematch. I think I could take him. DDP being 2-0 over the current champion, Sean Strickland, of course, is saying, well, I guess I'm champion now. That was his actual quote. Well, I guess I'm champion now. So, he's going to go try to get another shot at Sean Strickland since he's already 2-0 over him, even though he got one-sided demolished by Chimaev. Then you got Nasruddin Imavov, who has already lost to Strickland once, but he was ranked number 1, and he's basically declared himself as the number 1 contender and wants a shot at Strickland. So I think those are the only 3 names that are in the mix at the moment. What do you think is next for Sean? What do you think makes sense?
I think we're going to see Paulo Costa move down and take out Sean.
They fought and he beat Costa as well. In a very boring.
That was because Costa was dehydrated. This time they'll do it at 205.
That was a boring fight, by the way. I don't know if you remember it.
I think that Imavov is going to be the next logical contender for the belt. DDP and Sean have history, but you don't get a shot at the title when just because you've beaten the guy ahead of time. That doesn't seem like it's going to work. The math's going to work for me there. And so Imavov is my go-to. Chimaev needs to move up, go ahead and fight at 205. He looked jaunt going into the weigh-in this week. He was obviously gassed after round one. You've never seen Chimaev so weak that he couldn't go for a takedown for 2 rounds before.
Yeah.
That's a weight cut issue.
Yeah. So everything you just said, I agree with. And I'm going to say one more thing to add to the idea of Chimaev challenging next. I think Rick mentioned this as well, and I've seen a lot of other people say this, and I agree with it. If you are a champion who's held the title for a while, and if you had a lot of title defenses, and then you lose the match in a very close fight, an immediate rematch feels deserved. But this was Chimaev's first title defense, so, we're not saying he can't get a shot later on, but to get an immediate title defense, or another title shot, whenever this was his first defense, you might have to wait a little bit. They did the same thing with Sean Strickland. He didn't get immediate title defense when he lost to DDP. He had to go beat Paulo Costa first before he got another shot at DDP. When he lost to DDP that second time, he had to go fight Fluffy before he got another title shot. So I think it's only fair if Chimaev, let's say he's like, all right, let me slim back down to stay at middleweight because I do want this other fight. Hypothetically, let's say he does this because this was his first title defense. Instead of holding up the top of the division, go fight someone else. I'm sure he'll do fine and beat him, and then we can set that up down the road. But everything else you said, everything you said, period, I agree with. I actually do think it would be better for his health, if nothing else, to move up to 205. And everything you said on DDP and Imavov, I agree 100%. So,
Now, when it comes to Chimaev, that guy is going to be a monster no matter what weight class he gets to. There were rumors about him having planned on going to 205 to fight Jiri before he was offered Sean Strickland.
Yep.
Let's let him make that move. The reality is the guy fights once a year. Signing him up for an immediate rematch would be a little absurd because it requires shelving your new champion for 8 to 12 months.
Exactly. Yeah, a lot of people were saying a lot of crazy things regarding this fight, saying it was rigged. Like, I don't mean like the judges got it wrong, but like it was fixed. And that to me is absurd considering how much damage they put on each other. A lot of people were saying that it was a robbery. I expected this. And as we said, it was a close decision that could have gone either way. This is the craziest one. You ready for this one? Of all like the people saying, the reasons for it going this way or whatever, like the outcome of the fight, the narratives that I've seen come out. This is the craziest one. You ready for this one? Chimaev was never that good.
Yeah, that's a little absurd. Chimaev is that good.
He is.
He had something going on this fight where he did not put out the energy that he did against DDP. If he came out with the same amount of energy and same cardio he did against DDP, this would have gone a completely different way.
Right. And in my predictions, I did pick Strickland, and I went through my reasons why. But did I at any point during all of my points ever say that the reason why Sean would win is because Chimaev's just not that good?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No, I never said he was not good. I never said he wasn't dangerous. I have said time and time again, this is one of the scariest dudes on the roster. And I stand by that even now in loss. A lot of people are saying, because he lost that aura of invincibility. And I've actually seen people say he was actually not that good to begin with. since he's lost, again, recency bias. I've talked about this before, recency bias. You look at a losing effort or a really good winning effort, and all of a sudden they're really great or they're really terrible. I am now seeing people saying that, if you remember, there was a few months back where Ian Gary, it was right after Arman Sarukian had a fight with, I think, Dan Hooker, and Ian Gary ran into Chimaev backstage somewhere, and they were like talking, and for some reason Chimaev got snippy with them, and they kind of got into a little verbal tussle, and then people were bringing that up, like a screenshot of that little video where they're kind of going back and forth, and they're like, oh man, Chimaev didn't realize how close he was to death right here. Now a bunch of people are saying that Ian would tear him up, and they weren't saying this before the loss. It's recency bias. So he takes one loss, a very close loss, in a very tight match, and all of a sudden people are saying he's washed, he was never that good, and all these other people he's had beef with would kill him. You know, he's been beefing with Paulo Costa.
That's true. He was never that good at boxing. And that's what he went out there and did against one of the best in the world, was to box for the better part of 5 rounds or 4 rounds.
I don't think he's bad at boxing. I don't think he's great at boxing. I don't think he's bad at boxing.
Yeah, but he didn't make his way to the title on his boxing ability. No one was going, oh, look at Chimaev's hands.
But regardless, though, these people aren't saying he was never good at boxing. They're saying he was never good. Period.
Yeah, that's garbage.
Yeah, and they're even saying that, like, because, you know, him and Paulo Costa have been going back and forth, and since Costa's now in 205, and he's talking about moving to 205, set up that fight, which would be great. And everyone's like, dude, it would be one-sided. Costa would kill him and make it look easy. I'm like, when are you people going to stop saying all these fights are going to be easy? These are very talented fighters at the top of their game. Everyone gets so confident thinking that every single fight where they pick a winner and a loser, that the winner is just going to make a one-sided domination. It is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Costa will not just demolish Chimaev and make it look easy. It's absurd.
The Russian killer, man. He's going to make a name off of it.
It could be a competitive fight, and if it happens, I will definitely tune in. I would love to see that fight, and I'm a giant Paulo Costa fan, but I'm also a realist. Chimaev is way more dangerous than any Russian that Costa has fought. Hey, I'm down to watch it, but I'm not going to go out there and say that Costa's just going to demolish him. I'm not going to state that. I'm not that dumb. Now, all that being said, you're talking about fight of the night. Are we ready to move on, at least for now, past the title picture at middleweight and talk about the best fight we've seen this is the best fight we've seen since the winner's last fight.
Yep, Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira.
Tatsuro Taira
was a banger.
Best fight on the card, at least of the ones I saw. There's like a few I didn't get to see, like maybe 3 or 4 because I was busy. I watched the early prelims and most of the regular prelims. I watched a few of them, but not all of them. And then I caught all the main card. So of the ones I saw, it was fight of the night. And according to what I saw online on who got the awards, this was fight of the night.
Yeah, I called this one 100% wrong. I called Van a paper champion. I said that Taira was going to expose him. And, man, both these guys showed the heck up. They put on a good fight. Just Van was the better man on the night.
Yeah, so I was wrong with you. I did go in saying that I was leaning Van up until a few nights before the event, and then I switched to Taira. I admitted that it could go either way. It was really close, and it just ended up being a barn burner. The last time I saw a fight this good was Van's last fight, or not his last fight technically, because that would have been Pantoja fight before that when he fought Royval. Van has shown, like we did say this, he's a paper champion. I hate to use that term, and I said this last week.
I said it was construction paper.
Right, that's what I was about to get to. So like he's paper champion because, and it's not really any fault of his own, although he would like to say it is fault of his own. It's no fault of his own that it kind of ended abruptly, so he couldn't really like make a solid claim to the title. And so we're saying he's a construction paper champion. There's a little bit of weight to it. Let's let him get a really good defense to say, okay, you're legit. Now let's see you go fight Pantoja. And that's what we got to see. And we're happy that it played out that way. Now, we do need to address the elephant in the room, though. Was it an early stoppage?
It was definitely an early stoppage, but it may have saved Taira's life.
Yeah. So it's a weird one because on one hand, I don't think you should rob a fighter of the opportunity to make a good comeback, especially whenever a title is on the line. And it was pretty clear that Taira was still fighting and still defending and still moving. So I think it was unfair to call it. But at the same time, he was down several rounds and he was in pretty rough shape. And I think the finish was getting pretty close anyway. Best case scenario, he barely survives the round and loses by decision anyway. So it's not one of the, I've seen early stoppages before that have made me angry because I think it led to the wrong person winning. I will give you an example. When Israel Adesanya lost to TKO by Poatan, and look, I'm a giant Alex Pereira fan, and I don't really like Izzy. He's pretty annoying, but I'm fair. He was 4-0 in the fifth round. He gets stunned for about 5 seconds and the ref called it. And I think that was BS and it led to the wrong person winning. This, I don't think, is that same scenario. So, yes,
no, I really think that Taira was seconds away from actually taking the nap.
Maybe. It was
he
was
might
looking
have survived it, but it was he wasn't winning a decision. He wasn't making a comeback. That's why I don't think that a ref should be in the position of making that call. But like you said, I'm not mad at it.
Right. So, yeah, it's kind of where I'm at. So he was likely going to lose it anyway. So that's why I'm not as frustrated with it because I don't think it changes who would have won. But Taira's very upset. He immediately, he looks at the ref, puts his hands out to the side in frustration, then pulls out his mouthpiece and just chucks it like a sidearm pitcher in MLB. He was so mad. And I get it. He has every right to be mad at that finish. But at the end of the day, Van showed us that he is one of the best strikers, one of the best boxers in the UFC currently. I heard someone earlier today. I've been binging a whole lot of videos from a lot of different content creators on YouTube that cover all this stuff, and I saw one of them say that he thinks Van is, after this performance, the best boxer in all of the UFC, and he even name dropped Ilya. He's like above Ilya, above Max Holloway. This is the best boxer in the UFC. I don't quite agree with that, but I will admit he is a really damn good boxer. I wouldn't put him above Ilya, but the dude's got hands.
Yeah. He definitely impressed me. I wasn't expecting him to beat Taira, especially I thought he may even have some ring rust after not really getting to start against Pantoja. But he went out there. He was crisp. He was able to box, pieced him up. Just beautiful performance by Van.
Absolutely. Now, all that being said, now that we got to see him in action against another really dangerous grappler, because Taira is a grappler first, do you think Van has the skills to beat Pantoja in this rematch coming up? Because you know it's going to happen.
No, I'm going to go into this on record of underestimating Van again because Pantoja is just a different monster.
I'm with you 100%.
You know, if Van can pull it off, hats off to him. He may be in for one of the longest runs at flyweight ever, beat Demetrius Johnson's record. But Pantoja was on pace to beat Mighty Mouse's record until a fluke injury.
Now, I'll tell you this. We talk about people having really good runs. I think it's pretty hard to beat Ilia Toporia's recent run when it comes to beating back-to-back-to-back Volkanovski, Charles Oliveira, and Max Holloway. But if Van can beat Tatsuro Taira, Alexandre Pantoja, and Manel Kape because you're talking about potentially going a very long title run. Kopp is in, right there in line as well. If he goes through all three of those dudes, it's not quite on the same level as the run that Ilya went to, but that right next to that has got to be the best run of defeating absolute killers in a row.
Well, Ilya also did it across multiple weight classes, which makes it just that much more impressive.
Yes,
but
I'm not saying
talking about just one weight classes that's stacked to the ceiling with the bodies right now, it's definitely flyweight.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that that would be an absolute killer run if Van pulls this off, where he beats Taira, which he just did, beats Pantoja in the rematch, which would technically make him 2-0. Not technically, it would straight up make him 2-0 over Pantoja, and then beating Kopp. So really a 4-fight run, even though one of them kind of has an asterisk next to it. Still, if he could pull that off,
goes away whenever when you solidify it with a second performance.
Right. A good example of that is going back to Strickland, like whenever you fought DDP and DDP won in a very close split decision that a lot of people, myself included, didn't agree with, and then so they had that. So there's an asterisk next to it. Like, are you really deserving of holding this title because you squeaked past Strickland? A lot of people don't think you should have won. And the rematch, he just beats the absolute hell out of Strickland. And we're like, okay, all right, you're champion. We'll shut up now.
Yeah,
so
Strickland went in with a game plan this time, and I can't believe he was able to implement it. Just Chimaev conceded that he was going to box this one out, and I don't know if that's because he caught so much flack over wrestling DDP that it got in his head, or if he just convinced himself that he didn't need to wrestle, or he got tired, whatever it was. But Khamzat walked right into Strickland's trap, and Strickland capitalized on it.
Right. Yeah, but I was talking about the Strickland DDP thing. So it was another one where DDP won in such a close manner that some people didn't view him as the rightful champion. And then in the rematch, DDP demolishes Strickland. So that's when everyone's like, all right, we'll shut up now. You're the rightful champion. And I'm saying that Van can do the same if he defeats Pantoja convincingly in the rematch and then goes on maybe a very long run. So that's basically all I got on that fight. Now, you wanted to talk about this next fight because of the strange scoring. And normally I wouldn't want to rewatch this fight because I don't think it was all that exciting. It wasn't terrible. It was sort of lackluster, I suppose. But, yeah.
It was a heavyweight fight that went to decision.
But
how do you land 140 significant strikes and no one go to sleep whenever you're 265 pounds?
Right, but the scoring here is weird, and I think I need to go back and rewatch it. I haven't had a chance to rewatch it because I know we all discussed how we thought it should be scored, and then we heard the scores and disagreed with it. Then I looked up the numbers. I pull up the stats, and those stats don't look right to me, but I could be wrong, so I might need to go rewatch it. But anyway, break down this fight on how you saw it, how you scored it, and how it actually was scored by the judges. Break down the fight.
I'm drawing a blank. I remember that Volkov, my impression coming off of it was that Waldo had done more damage, and I thought that he had outstruck Volkov. But when I look at the numbers, Volkov landed 88 significant strikes to Waldo's 54.
Right, and that's what I'm getting at. So when we all watched the fight, we thought that some of the rounds were close, but it looked like Waldo was landing more. And we were thinking it might be 29-28 Waldo. And they end up saying 29-28, 30-27, and then 29-28 again. And we're all flabbergasted.
Yeah, 30-27 was just out of left field.
Right. So because we all were thinking Waldo. We were all thinking that Waldo had won this fight. And two judges gave it to Volkov 29-28, and one gave it to him 30-27. And we're really confused at that. But then when I look up the stats, it shows that Volkov allegedly outstruck Waldo all 3 rounds. And again, I don't always agree with those numbers, but that just seemed kind of weird to me because that's not what it looked like to me. It didn't look like Volkov was landing more, but according to the numbers, he was landing more. 2 judges had it 29-28 Waldo, 1 had it 30-27, or I'm sorry, not Waldo, 29-28 Volkov, and then 1 had it 30-27 Volkov. And it just seemed weird that he got all those rounds and then got all those numbers on the stats. Just kind of odd the way that played out. I feel like I need to go back and rewatch it. So maybe I misunderstood something and maybe I'll have a different opinion of it rewatching it, but I don't know. That one just came across rather weird to me.
Yeah. Now, got to give props where it's due. That was Volkov's 40th win.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. He's a veteran for sure.
What do you do with a guy with that kind of experience who isn't able to climb the mountain, but is acting as a Koopa Troopa, keeping everyone else out of the top 5?
That's actually a really good question, because it kind of depends on what happens with his title picture. So he's already lost. So you got to look at who's involved in the title picture right now. You got 3 names: Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, Alex Pereira. He's already lost to Tom Aspinall. He's already lost to Gane twice. And I think maybe even Aspinall twice, at the very least once. So if one of those 2 are champion, when this all said and done, does Volkov get another shot against one of those guys? Hard to justify.
There's an argument to be made that Volkov beat Gane.
I agree.
In their matchup.
Yeah. So there is that. And then the Aspinall fight, I'm not sure how long ago that was. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2 fights, but I know he has lost to Aspinall. But
if Gane is able to get around Pereira and through Aspinall, I could see Volkov getting another shot at the title then.
And if he's only faced Aspinall once, I don't have it up in front of me to know for sure if it was once or twice, but maybe if he goes on a decent winning streak, he could get another shot at Tom Aspinall. It would be easiest from Volkov's standpoint if Pereira is the one who comes out victorious through it when it's all said and done, because he hasn't faced Pereira yet. No one has at heavyweight. Yeah. So you could keep him in the top of the wings fighting whoever, put him against, has he fought Blades yet? I'm not sure. Put him against whoever else to keep him busy. I mean, he could earn himself to another title shot. I don't know if he'd win.
But can he win it?
No.
And that's the real crux of it. And the answer is a resounding no.
I mean, but we do agree that he probably should have won against Gane in that one fight. So, maybe? It's not out of the question.
He did lose against Blades.
Okay, so he's already fought him. I couldn't remember for sure. I don't have his stats in front of me.
Yeah, he lost against Blades.
He beat Pavlovich. I remember
by decision.
He beat Pavlovich. I remember that one.
Yep. Which, that's what he's good at right now, is he's a good test for the top 5.
Right.
Waldo got in there, and I still can't believe that he didn't win it, but he didn't do what he needed to do to move up.
Right. So now what do we do with Waldo? Hoke it? Even though he's coming off a loss?
No. With Waldo, we feed him to, what is his name? Gable Stevenson.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty big jump, but maybe. Well, I know that Hokit was calling out Waldo, so...
Yeah, but Hokit calls out everybody. That guy...
Everyone.
He stands there and just talks.
Dude, on Twitter, Chimaev commented, whenever you're ready, to Sean Strickland. Like, he's ready to have a rematch against Sean Strickland. Hokit was not in the conversation. Hokit inserts himself in the conversation, talking about, I'll take that fight and see who backs up first. It's like, dude, we weren't even talking about you. Why are you going after Chimaev? So he's going after Chimaev. Whenever Sean Strickland commented something about like Hokit's shtick, like his character work, his promos, his goofy wrestling promos, he was like saying it's kind of annoying, and some of the stuff he says, isn't cool. The things he says, which is kind of pot calling the kettle black coming from Strickland, but I digress. And And then he was like, I'm a very small middleweight, so anybody from middleweight on up can get it. I'll cut down and fight you, Sean. So he's called Sean Strickland. He at UFC 328 in the crowd, he got into it with Paulo Costa, and security had to separate the two. I don't know if you saw that. So he's already tried to fight Paulo Costa. He's already talked at Chimaev. He's talked at Sean Strickland. He's talked to Ilya. He won the fight, Ilya and Alex, at the press conference. He was getting into a Yuri Prohaska before Yuri's fight with Olberg. Pretty much anyone he comes across, he wants to fight. So
anyone can get it. That's one of the things that's great about him, is that he's down to throw with anybody.
Am I right, Miami? But don't get your women from Miami.
Oh, that was a low blow.
That was rough, dude. That was rough. That was so rough.
That made me do a double take and go, oh, burn.
Yeah, that was kind of ugh. But anyway, moving along down this card, this fight might be the most one-sided fight on the entire card. Sean Brady versus Buckley. Buckley is a guy who I think is the most physically fit person in all of the UFC. If you just look at like his body, just his physique, like his muscle tone and body fat percentage, I don't think there's anyone in more shape than Buckley. He's very fast. He's very strong. He's very athletic. He's got very good punches, very good kicks. I remember like when he kicked a dude and the dude caught his foot and he did like this jump spinning kick and knocked the dude out. That's like something you see in a movie, not a real fight, but he does it anyway. He's that good when it comes to striking. Absolutely zero grappling defense whatsoever. Zero grappling, period. The last fight that he fought before this one, he fought Usman, and Usman just took him down and controlled him and pummeled him. Sean Brady, who's a jiu-jitsu guy, not even a true wrestler, does the same thing. It's very clear Buckley needs to avoid grapplers.
Yes.
Great striker. I think in the division, he is not the best, but he is in the better half of the ranked strikers. He's a pretty solid striker. Dude, learn some grappling defense. I've watched you 2 fights in a row, and I touted Buckley once upon a time as being a guy I could see rising the ranks and maybe becoming a title contender. And now I've watched him fight 2 people with grappling back to back, and it was absolutely one-sided. He has no way to stop the takedown, and when he gets on his back, he has no answer on how to get up. Like, zero grappling. And that's really the story of the whole fight. I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said here.
Yeah, I mean, if he's going to fight at the top of the division, he's going to have to deal with people like Morales and Gary. And that, I guess maybe he could hope to outbox Protest, but he's just not there.
Right, I agree. He's an above-average striker.
Would own him.
I think he's an above-average striker, but he's not an elite striker like JDM, like Protest, like Morales. And then, so if he's not an elite striker like those guys, and he has just no grappling, he's going to become a Koopa Troopa at best.
Yep, he's going to hang in that 5 to 10 slot and just draw a paycheck for a while.
Yep, until age catches up with him and he starts losing more matches to up-and-comers and falls off. That's what's going to happen if he doesn't work on some things. But Sean Brady...
That being said, I do have somebody that I would like to see him fight.
Okay, go ahead.
Michael Venom Page.
I'd be down for that.
I think stylistically, that's exactly what MVP needs, an aggressive striker who he can counter-strike off of and really shine. I think that Buckley versus MVP would make for a great fight matchup.
Yeah, actually, I agree 100%. We also need to talk about Sean Brady. So Sean Brady's a jiu-jitsu guy, but he was using jiu-jitsu in a way to do ground and pound instead. I don't recall him trying a lot of submissions. So when people think jiu-jitsu, they think Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they think submissions. Jiu-jitsu, for people that train it, know this, that like the submission is a very small portion of what you learn in jiu-jitsu. It's like when you learn how to write out a sentence, the period at the end of the sentence is the equivalent of the submission. It's how you end the sequence. But you have to learn how to do everything else to lead up to that. What I'm getting at is jiu-jitsu is more positional control than anything. It's like 90%, 95% positional control, whether it's like sweeps, takedowns, pinning a person to where you're just in charge of them and control of them, different dominant positions. That's the majority of what you learn in jiu-jitsu. And then it's like once you're in these positions, by the way, you could choke them out or you could armbar them or whatever. All that being said, that's what I'm talking about whenever I talk about a jiu-jitsu guy that uses their jiu-jitsu to work in strikes. He used jiu-jitsu style dominant positions. It wasn't like wrestling where he just blast double them and smother them like Chimaev would. He would do jiu-jitsu style techniques to trip them down, work some type of position, get Buckley pinned in a position, and then just start working ground and pound. And I thought it was beautiful to see a jiu-jitsu guy use jiu-jitsu in a way that leads to punching instead of just trying to choke or something. So I think he has a really bright future, but kind of the inverse of Buckley's problem, Brady needs to really work into striking, because anytime he faces an elite striker, like when he fought Morales, he's going to get messed up. And who else did he fight recently and lost against? I don't have it in front of me. Oh, yeah. Was it Muhammad?
Belal Muhammad, yeah. He's won everything else for the last few years other than those two.
Okay, so, Belal Muhammad's a fantastic wrestler, though. So, yeah, so it sounds like Belal Muhammad probably just out-wrestled him. And even though you have grappling, if you let a wrestler do his thing, then the wrestler's going to win. And then his other fight that he lost was against Morales. So he needs to work on his striking. It's the inverse of Buckley. Like, you want to get back up because he had a lot of momentum once upon a time, and then he's lost a few, so he went back a little bit. Work on that striking, or else you're gonna, because you got Protest, you got Ian Gary. If Shavkat decides to come back, and Ian Gary and Shavkat are kind of 50-50 grappler striker, but like I said, Protest, JDM, those guys are gonna give you trouble, man.
Yep. Now, for the only other fight that finished in the night.
Of the main card, at least.
Yeah, because, man, I cannot handle decision after decision after decision, even when they're good matchups. But King Green putting away Jeremy Stephens in the very first round.
I called it the lock of the night for a reason. I will give credit to Stephens, though. He started off actually showing he had a little bit of fight in him. I'm not saying he was like hurting Green, but he's fighting pretty hard. And then Green was like, nah, I'm going to punch you, I'm going to knock you down, I'm going to jump on you, I'm going to take your back, and I'm going to choke you out, because I'm that guy.
Yeah, with his hands down the entire time. It was
I love
great.
watching it. I love watching Bobby Green fight so much. I really do. Just the way he carries himself. I wish he was a lot better than he was, because he has this aura where if he was at the top, he'd be one of those like guys that you just really, really, really pull for. And I still do, but I know that he will never, be at the top. So it's like I root for him on the undercard or early parts of main cards, and it's pretty much where he's going to be until he decides to retire. Now, I kind of feel bad for him because he's had a few in a row now, fantastic performances. The last time he fought, it was one of the best performances of the night, but not quite the best, so he didn't get a bonus. I can't remember if he got a finish or not, but if he did, he of course got the finish bonus, but like he didn't get, a performance bonus or fight of the night bonus or anything like that. So he was a little upset about that because he felt he deserved it. So when he beat Jeremy Stephens by rear naked choke, and it looked great. It was something that I would definitely say was worthy of a performance of the night bonus. When he gets the mic, he turns and tells Dana White that I deserve a bonus. I didn't get a bonus last time, and that pissed me off. I'm saying now, give me that bonus. What I just did deserves a bonus. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. And I just went and looked. Nope, he didn't get a bonus this time either.
Ooh.
Right?
Well, he gets this $100,000 finishing bonus.
Yes, but he didn't get the performance of the night bonus.
Fight of the night, yeah.
Oh yeah, so it went to I just had it up. Give me a minute. Performance of the night. Actually, there was two people that got performance of the night. One was Yaroslav Amosov, and the other one's Jim Miller. Amosov. Let's see. That was actually one of the fights that I missed. I think it's when we were driving over to Rick's place. He won in the second round by arm triangle choke. And then Jim Miller, you watched that one at my house, and that was whenever he got that guillotine in the first. So both of them got performance of the night bonuses. Fight of the night was Taira and Van. Of course it was. Why wouldn't it be? And then so since we're talking about the prelims, I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it, but I'm going to mention just a few things real quick. Miller's guillotine was one of the things in my notes. Beautiful to see. Miller, I think, I could be wrong, I think Jim Miller has been fighting the UFC longer than anyone still signed to the UFC, I think. If not, he's up there. And I think it's pretty awesome to see a guy who's been fighting this long still getting big wins, still looking good, still being competitive. I'm just happy to see it. The man is 42 years old. He's my age. He's actually older than me. He's older than me by a whopping week. And 39 wins.
So what's your excuse for not being at the top of a division?
Because I don't have the same drive that these guys do. Let's just be honest. Let's just be real here. A different type of person here. The man just did his 59th, listen to this, 59th fight. One fight away from 60. He fought at UFC 100. He fought at UFC 200. He fought at UFC 300. He holds records in the UFC for like most fight. Let's see. Let me pull it up real quick. He has several performance of the night bonuses, fight of the night bonuses. The most wins in UFC history, period. Or at least for lightweight. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Most wins in UFC history, period, 28. Most wins in UFC lightweight division history, 25. Most bouts in UFC history, 47. Most bouts in UFC lightweight division history, 44. And I'm just reading the top of this long list of accolades that he has in MMA. This dude, the longevity of this fighter, you have to be impressed. You have to be, or you're crazy. And to see him face a guy who is a dangerous opponent in his own right, Jaron Gordon, who was 21-8 going into this fight, who was, 37 years old. So he's a good bit younger than him, and he still comes in and wins by guillotine. I just can't help but just be impressed at this performance overall. All right. There's two more things I want to talk about on the undercard, and then we'll move on. All right. So remember the last week you told me to pronounce a certain name because it looked like a really tricky name?
Yes.
Baisangur Susarkayev. All right. That's how it's pronounced. I got it down now. That weird name that you told me to try to pronounce, keep an eye on that guy. He is undefeated. He trains with Chimaev. And my goodness, after I watched that fight, I was like, oh, wait, I've seen this guy fight before. He's now 12-0. And every single win is just super, super impressive. I got his stats up here. He only has one win by decision. He's 12-0. 9 by knockout, 2 by submission. And he won by technical submission. I remember watching this. He choked the dude out, and the dude just went to sleep, didn't tap. So it was a technical submission. Choked the dude unconscious in the third round. In a fight that he was dominating from the beginning anyway. So keep your eye on Baisangur Susarkayev. It's a dangerous man. And the last thing I want to talk about on these prelims is Roman Kopylov. I've been talking about this guy for a long time, about how he's a good fighter, but he's been losing because he keeps facing really good competition. He finally gets a win by decision, and it pissed me off. Not because he won, but we need a term for this. When you have a fight IQ like Michael Chandler, we need a term for it, like a slur or something for people that fight like that. You have Chandlerism. Is that a good thing to say?
Listen, he's got a case of the Chandlers.
Right. So check it out. Roman Kopylov versus Marco Tulio. Marco Tulio, really good record, very dangerous fighter. He is coming off a loss, but it was a pretty competitive fight. And before that, he was on a very long winning streak. So I knew Tulio was going to be dangerous. I know Kopylov's dangerous, but he can be beat by pretty good competition, These two are going back and forth, and Tulio's getting the better of him. And I'm thinking that Kopylov's on his way to yet again another loss. Then he lands a vicious combination that stuns Tulio and drops him. Tulio doesn't quite go unconscious. He gets all spaghetti leg, gets dropped, jumps back up, and Kopylov swarms again. Pop, pop, hits him a couple more times, drops him again. Tulio starts staggering, trying to get up. He's wobbly on rubbery legs. You could just see in his face that he doesn't even know where he's at. He could barely stand up. If you're a kickboxer, if you're a very dangerous kickboxer, and you have someone who can't even stand up right, and he's like super, super loopy, this is a round that you were losing, and the dude could barely stand up under his own 2 feet, and now he looks like he's about to be finished. What do you do, Roy? What do you do?
Grapple.
Yes, because that's exactly what Kopylov did. He grabbed him and pinned him up against the fence. And actually, if I remember correctly,
you don't want him to fall down. He could hurt himself. Look at what happened to Pantoja.
Right. Good point. Maybe that's what it was. So actually, if I remember correctly, that was the second round that happened. I might have said first round earlier. So he lost the first round. Second round, he makes a comeback towards the end of the round by dropping the dude several times. The dude looked like he was about to go to sleep and decides to just clinch and hold him against the fence till time ran out. Third round starts. He opens the third round. I'm talking as soon as they meet in the center of the cage in the third round, same thing. He hits him with a really nasty combination, drops Tulio again. So you know if you get dropped immediately after getting dropped from the previous round, it kind of reminds me of when Poatan fought Yuri in their second fight, where he dropped him at the end of the first round, then drops him at the beginning of the second round. It's like the same thing, but second and third round here. You could tell Tulio hadn't still fully recovered. So opening combination in the third round, Kopylov drops him again. Tulio just looks like he's in really, really bad shape, and you could just finish him off with any good series of strikes. Kopylov decides to jump on him and pin him. Like, he knocked him down, and you think maybe jump on him and hit him with some ground and pound. No, he just like jumps on him, jumps into his guard, and starts clinching with him on the mat. What was that?
He didn't want anything bad to happen to him. He figured that he could hold him and everything would be okay.
He had a case of the Chandlers, dude. He did win the fight. He lost the first round clearly. Second round, I think he was losing the round, but because he dropped him at the end of the second, he stole the round. And the third round, he dropped him and then just kind of laid on him. And then I think they got back up and kind of threw a little bit of back and forth, but it didn't amount to much. But like the opening sequence alone was enough to give Kopylov the third round. So he ends up winning 29-28. I remember you walked in the door right as they're announcing the winner, and I looked right at my screen on my tablet because I was watching it on my tablet, and I said, "You won that by the skin of your teeth, dude."
Yeah.
I got to get it off my chest. I was very disappointed that you have the dude completely stunned. You're losing the fight. You have the dude so stunned he can't even stand up straight. You're a kickboxer, and you decide to clinch him against the cage.
I don't understand these guys that don't have killer instinct. On top of that, you're in there to finish the fight. And the sooner you do that, the better it is for everyone on your side of the fence. There's $100,000 for finishing somebody. I'm going in to try and finish everybody that they would ever put against me for $100,000 a head.
Right. And the thing is, he does have a killer instinct, though. He has 15 wins and 12 are by knockout. Maybe what it is like maybe he catches them with like a clean knockout, like he hits them and they go to sleep completely, so he doesn't need to like run in and finish like some people do. Maybe that's what it is. But I definitely didn't see a killer instinct in this fight. I just didn't see it. Like as soon as he grabbed him against the fence, whenever he had him rocked, I was literally yelling at my screen, just like, "What are you doing?" Anyway, had to get that off my chest. Everything else on the prelims, I did see. All the prelims on the early prelims. I didn't catch any of the main prelims, and they were fun to watch. A little frustrating with the Kopylov thing, like I just mentioned, but go watch the Bison Gore Susukaya fight. That was actually pretty solid. The rest were fun. They were good fights, but nothing to write home about. That's basically it for this card, UFC 328. Overall, I really enjoyed this card. Next week, we got things happening next week.
Yep, we've got Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano.
And an Apex card. Arnold Allen versus Melquizael Costa. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is actually a pretty decent fight. Arnold Allen and Melquizael Costa. The rest of the card, nothing really sticks out.
You're not excited for Choi Do-Hoo?
I don't even know who that is. I know we talked about his name last week, but I don't know if I've ever seen this guy fight before. It's an Apex card with not a lot going on. He's 16-4. Pretty good record. He has fought in the UFC a while. I'm surprised I haven't seen him before. Maybe I've seen him, I just don't remember the name. Well, actually, it looks like he hasn't fought very much. If you looking at since he joined the UFC, goodness, he's been fighting a while. Just looking at his UFC career, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2016, 2018, 2019, 23, 24, and another one 24. So I guess he's so inactive that he just kind of flew under the radar. He just pops up every now and then.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you have Modestas Bukakas. On the undercard, you got Cody Brundage. Most of the names on here, outside of those, I just don't recognize. Tuco Tokos, I think I've seen him fight before. But yeah, it's an Apex card that actually has a pretty decent main event, but outside of the main event, nothing really sticks out to me on this card. So I think the big event that's happening next week, people are going to be talking about, is that Netflix card. I personally don't care about the Netflix card, but I know Rick's been talking about it a lot, and it would be a disservice to not at least mention it. He thinks that Netflix is going to take over.
I'm always down for a good heavyweight match, and Francis Ngannou is going to be fighting Philippe Lins.
Right? Yeah, so Rick seems to think that Netflix could be a proper contender as far as competition goes for UFC. Now, we've seen Bellator and PFL and ONE FC. We've seen a lot of organizations come and go, even though ONE FC and PFL is still around. I remember back in the day, Strikeforce, Elite XC, a lot of these companies come and go, and none of them have been able to hold up against the juggernaut that is the UFC. That being said, as Rick has pointed out multiple times, none of them had the budget that Netflix does. And while this card on paper might not be the most exciting thing, do you think with the budget Netflix has that they could start building something legitimate that could actually take over the MMA scene and dethrone UFC as the top brand? Do you think that's possible? You think it's not going to happen at all? What do you think?
I think that they're going to work with Jake Paul's MVP Promotions to do a well-rounded variety of combat sports, but I don't see them trying to compete directly with the UFC. I see it being some boxing, some kickboxing, some Muay Thai, some wrestling, and just whatever Jake Paul decides to promote in that given time period to make money.
Kind of like ONE FC does, where there's different arts. You think so? It'd be interesting.
Well, it's what makes most sense with MVP, because they already promote boxing and MMA.
Right. Now, I was under the impression that Jake Paul was working with PFL. So for him to be over at Netflix, I guess he left PFL? I never heard that, but PFL's not involved with this next Netflix thing to my knowledge. So I guess Jake Paul's no longer with PFL?
I do not know. Let's see.
Because he was like one of the main sponsors of it for a while.
Yeah, he's no longer under contract with PFL.
Okay.
He did a 3-year partnership and
ended in January.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, he already tried to go after UFC. I remember whenever he did promotion in the PFL, like calling out UFC, saying that what we're doing is going to be better and dethrone you. We have the way we do like a series, like a or a season, not a series, a season. He kind of compared it to like a football season where like everybody fights and there's like a championship thing at the end. It isn't like you hold a title forever. You know, I don't know if they ever even made that happen, but that was the idea behind the PFL, is that there's gonna be like a season that everybody fights almost like tournament style, and then, you know, at the end of it you have like the new champion for like that year. Then you do the same thing again next year, kind of like the old tournament style stuff, except for it wasn't all done in one night, but like it was the old tournament style that UFC started with. So I remember that was like a big idea that Jake had, but I don't know if that ever came to fruition. I don't really follow PFL. And yeah, so apparently he's working with Netflix now. He got Rousey and Carano and Mike Perry, Nate Diaz. We shall see.
Nate Diaz has been talking some trash on Sean Strickland.
Oh, I saw. Yeah, dude, a lot of people. I mean, if I wanted to, I have so much I want to say on the Sean Strickland topic and side topics of people, you know, talking about him, the narrative around him, around, you know, him being the champion now and other fighters and stuff. They're saying there's so many different side topics surrounding this fight that I could talk on it for an hour easily on just Sean Strickland. I do want to get those things out, but I think I need to save that for another time because I don't want to do a 2.5 hour podcast episode. But yeah, a lot of people, Nate Diaz included, Ariel Helwani, who's not a fighter, Ariel Helwani had things to say. Kamaru Usman had things to say. A lot of people did. I would like to cover it. I just don't think we have time to right now.
Sean and Khamzat came out and they were touching gloves and everything, I felt completely betrayed.
Yeah, that's actually something I wanted to talk about. I didn't want to go too in depth with it because, like I said, this episode would end up being like ridiculously long. I'm trying to avoid that, but that's actually one of the biggest points of controversy currently surrounding that fight. It wasn't even so much who won. So I mean, some people are arguing about that, but the other part is, you know, all the terrible things that they both said about each other, especially the things that Chimaev said, or I'm sorry, Strickland said, and then he comes out and he apologizes after the fight. I don't know if you saw this. He actually apologized before he was handed a microphone. He apologized to Chimaev directly, like face to face in the ring, and then he apologized on the microphone to the fans. And then in interviews after that, he was saying that, you know, he was just trying to sell the fight. So a lot of people are saying that it was all fake. Now, here's my summed up opinion on all that. And if we want to go back and forth debating that, like I said, I think it would take too long. We could probably hit this in like another week or something. But my honest opinion on it was that it was not fake. I think they truly and honestly did not like each other because these are not professional actors. They wouldn't be able to act this good. And you're not going to get kicked in the groin at a weigh-ins, you know, just for an act, right? I think the animosity was genuine, but I think Sean Strickland, he's the kind of person who lets his emotions take control, and when he does, he like lashes out in a way that's stronger than he means to. He's done this more than once. He's done it plenty of times in the past, like whenever he went off on DDP a few times and then made up with him like the very next day. And B, Sean was exaggerating it. Like he knew that he already had animosity with him and he wanted to say these mean things, but he's like, you know what, like to sell the fight, let me go ahead and just let the animosity like really out. Just go all out with it, crank it up to 11. It wasn't that he was being dishonest with it. He was just exaggerating it, if that makes any sense. That's what I think happened.
Sounds like dishonesty to me.
I get that. I really do. But I'm just saying that like it wasn't that the animosity itself was a lie. There's a lot of people are thinking that there was never animosity. It was all fake. He never disliked him at any point. I don't think that's the case. I think that he was honest in that he did not like him. He was honest in that he had strong negative feelings towards him and wanted to let it out. I just think that the level of which he did it at was amplified intentionally for selling, if that makes any sense. Like the animosity was real. It was exaggerated for sales. That's my opinion on it, at least. Take it or leave it.
Well, I think he moved on entirely too fast for it to have been real. And I think that he stand by what he said, that he pushed this trying to promote the fight.
Yeah.
And there are certain lines you just don't cross.
Yeah.
Your mother's a whore, not a line that I would have crossed.
Right. And a lot of other things he said too about like Muslim fans like don't belong in this country. We shouldn't have let you in, you know, because those were like the people supporting Chimaev, you know. So he was like attacking basically the entire religion and ethnicity of people. There's a lot. There's a whole lot. But like I said, that's a very long topic we could get into. So yeah. So I know Errol Helwani had a whole lot to say on that topic, and I think that could be covered later. A lot of people have already covered it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
like I said,
Ariel's a big boy. He can speak for himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't need me to step in and try to translate.
yeah, I don't necessarily agree with exactly how Errol Helwani painted it as well. I think when he brought up all of his points, I half agree in some ways, but then I half disagree in other ways. It's kind of messy. It's one of those situations where like nobody's entirely right. But like I said, my overall opinion on the animosity was that the animosity was there. It did exist. It was genuine. It wasn't completely made up, but it was exaggerated. That's my take on it. That's basically it. So that's basically it for this event. And I guess next week, the big buzz will be about the Netflix event. I'm having a hard time saying Netflix today. I keep wanting to call it Netflix. The Netflix MMA event next week, I think it's going to be the big buzz. So we'll have to see how that played out, see what kind of views it got, how exciting it was, how well the production was. So we'll be talking about that next week. Maybe Rick will be on to talk about it because he seems to be talking more about the Netflix card than I have, or maybe even you have. So
I have to get Netflix to watch it.
I have Netflix. I'll be honest, I just don't really care about that card. It just doesn't interest me. Like Rick pointed out, because, you know, Netflix is so mainstream that it's going to pull in a lot of like the casual viewer because, you know, not everyone has Paramount. You know, more people have Netflix than Paramount. So it's just more accessible, I guess you could say, the MMA promotion that's coming up under Netflix. So I get that. But as like a true MMA fan who really wants to follow like the best fighters in the world, I look at that card and it's just, I get that Francis Ngannou's on it and he's, you know, still considered the lineal heavyweight champion. But like beyond that, like the names on that card just don't strike me as really relevant to the fight game. So I can't help, you know, not being excited for the fight, for the event as a whole. Just my take on it.
Yeah, it's one of those, I'm going to watch it because you kind of got to, but I'm not expecting groundbreaking things out of this one. I don't know where any of these matches lead to next. Gina and Rhonda have already said that they're not going to fight anymore. Nate and Mike Perry will probably go back to bare knuckle, and we'll see what happens with Nate. Francis, you never know what he's going to decide to do next. He might box, he might kickbox, he may wrestle RAF, but I don't see him being in any danger of losing this particular match.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know anything about his opponent, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend if I feel really confidently he's going to win or not, because like, if I don't even know your opponent.
He was in the UFC, never cracked the top 15.
Okay. Well, I guess that answers it. I don't know anything about him, so I can't. I would be dishonest in trying to make make a prediction on a fighter where I only know, or a fight where I only know one fighter and don't even know the other one. Yeah. So as someone who's had Netflix for many, many years, they are really good at producing very good shows. I'm talking like epic, amazing. Oh my God, I'm really loving the show. It's one of the best shows I've seen in many, many years. I can't wait for next season. Then they cancel it. Netflix is terrible about that. I wonder if that's going to happen with this MMA thing.
Well, the only thing Netflix that I've watched in the last few years has been Stranger Things, and I didn't finish it.
Yeah. The last season's out. I started it and didn't get far into it. I was just kind of getting worn out on it.
They broke it up into either 2 or 3 parts releasing it. And I was like, after they finish releasing it, I'll go back and watch it. And I never went back and watched it.
Yeah, I think the last season that I completed was pretty good, and it felt like it could have ended there, but they're going a little bit further. And But again, that would be another topic I'd go forever on, but there's been a whole lot of shows. I could sit here and talk forever on shows that were produced by Netflix on Netflix, and I'm like, oh, this is really good. They have a good budget. They could pull in really good actors, really good writers, and make fantastic shows. You get into it, and then it gets canceled. And I could think of 2 shows in particular that a season ended. It was amazing. It ended on a cliffhanger, like a really crazy cliffhanger. I'm like, man, I can't wait for the next season to see how this plays out. Canceled. You had Santa Clarita Diet and Archive 81. Both of those shows were really good, especially Archive 81. Archive 81 was one season that was kind of like a horror, mystery, sci-fi thing, and fantastic show. I was enthralled beginning to end. Kind of a slow burn, but I like slow burns. It ends on a crazy cliffhanger. And I'm like, I can't wait for season 2. I waited and waited and waited. Like a year later, still no season 2. When is it coming out? Let me go to Google. When is Archive 81 season 2 coming out? Netflix canceled Archive 81. Son of a bitch. Yep.
Brutal, man.
Brutal. So anyway, that's basically it on this event. You got anything else you want to say in the world of MMA, this event, next week's event, Netflix, Apex card, anything?
Yeah, I think that Ronda will armbar Gina. I think that Francis will knock out Lynn. And I think that Perry is going to put away Diaz.
Really?
Yes. Perry has been active in bare knuckle, and whereas Nate has been
never knocked out. Never been knocked out.
Oh no, I don't think that he's going to get knocked out. I think that he's going to get beat.
Oh, well, when you said put away, it makes me think. Well,
he's going to lose.
I take that back. He has 2 wins by KO. Let me see, either KO or TKO. I could have sworn he's never been KO'd. Apparently, I'm mistaken. There's a doctor stoppage against Jorge Masvidal, and head kick and punches by Josh Thompson. I actually don't remember those. I, for some reason, think he's never lost by KO. I stand corrected. It's been twice.
Well, either way, Perry's my choice for that match. Francis and Ronda.
Sounds good. All right, so thank you all for tuning into the Ground and Pound cast. We think we're going to start releasing at this schedule now. I think it works easier for us. It works out better for our schedules that we're going to be releasing Wednesday mornings as much as we can instead of Monday mornings. I think this schedule is going to work out better for us. So be sure to tune in for us. Tune in, check out our new episodes Wednesday mornings, where you get all the best in MMA coverage. And also another thing I want to say is moving forward, when we have slower weeks, instead of just giving the playback on all of the mundane fight night cards where not a whole lot happened that's worth talking about, I think we're going to start trying to hit some new things to talk about in the MMA world, deep dive into special side topics, because there's a lot of other things that we think we could go into that are just much more exciting, and I think it's going to be more engaging and more fun to get involved with and listen to. So if you have any suggestions for things you would like to hear us talk about, you can hit us up on Facebook, you could hit us up on YouTube. You know, we check all those. We will respond. We're a very small podcast. We're trying to grow. And if you want to be involved and want to give us ideas to become part of the conversation, it'd be very easy to do that. So if you want to comment, do it. Let us know, and we'll continue trying to make this show the best it can be. So thank you for tuning into the Ground and Pound cast, and we'll see you all next week.